basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded. So let us say, government by the retarded, for the retarded, of the retarded.
Welcome back. I do have a really exciting transmission for you. I figured, what the heck, I'm going to start dropping some nuggets of gold for you to stick around for. Why not? Okay. So, first of all, welcome to this perfect day that the Lord hath created. It is for you as well. So, recognition of that is probably a good thing. Let's just recognize right now. And actually, I'm going to avoid the mud today, so I like to walk as close to the lake as I can, but all the sand is mud. So maybe not today. All right. I'm just going to have to get into the flow and go with this. There was a lot on my mind that I was downloading this morning, so let's just carry on. So first of all, what would it be like if your life could reflect the ever-present supply of divine love, fulfilling every human need? What would your life be like differently? What would you do differently in life if you knew that you were always supported financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally? What would you do differently? Really, take a minute to think about that. It's important. Everything that you're currently doing that's not what you said you would do differently is moving you further and further away from what you say you desire. Here's a little thing I want you to do for the next 3 days. And look, if you don't want to do stuff, if you don't want to pay the price for wisdom, then just go somewhere else. Go watch some porn, some fear porn. Go watch how these people are going to save the world by exposing the bad people. Go do that. I'll see you in a couple years when you come back. Maybe by then you'll be ready to let that all go. Now, if you are ready now to let it all go, which you can, and I highly advise you to do so, because it's much more profitable for you, you get out a sheet of paper and you make a list, and you put a line down the middle, plus on one side, minus on the other. What you said you would do differently if you knew that life itself would always support you physically, financially, spiritually, emotionally. Always supported by divine love. All of your needs would be met with least effort. If you knew that were true, whatever you said you'd be doing differently, put that on the plus side Just write those things down. Whatever you are presently doing that you would swap out for that, put that on the negative side. Example, well, this is what I would be doing. Wonder why. I would be walking and flowing and celebrating God and living in the moment, doing what I love. Well, I am doing that. So I'm living in the positive. And I'm not trying to reinforce duality here. I'm just showing you that positive means we're moving into alignment. Negative means we're moving out of alignment. Okay? And it's all based on your degree of trust with the Father, Mother, Spirit, etc. Trust. Do you trust life? Well, then you'll be doing what you said you would be doing. If you do not trust life, well, then you are doing the things on the negative side, which means you're pulling away from the Father. You're yielding before the evidence of your material five senses, and you're letting the carnal mind grab the wheel and steer you in the reasoning that one day you're going to get to that positive side. Yes, you are. See, I know this carnal mind better than it would like for me to know. Now, here's the deal. Right in this space right now, as you just witnessed on paper, a separation between who you were engineered to be and who you are presently being, according to your own understanding versus God's understanding. I will bring about that transformation on your behalf. So as we go forward in this video, if for some reason you start to feel much more clear, at peace, joy-filled, even looking forward to a better tomorrow, whether it happens instantly, by tomorrow morning, or even by the weekend, there will come a moment when you will be set free. Just by engaging with this transmission right here. Look, it sounds ridiculous, I know. But we're here because something inside of you is compelling you to engage. And because something has compelled you to engage, your faith has been slightly activated. You are slightly activated right now. But by the time we're through today, my aim, my mission, my intent is that you will be fully activated. So, while I'm not a martyr, and I don't claim to be your Messiah, what I do claim, and what I want you to know, is this. I have humbly given myself to this work, recognizing that this is my life purpose. This is what God created me to do. So therefore, in that same humility, I can give myself to God and let God work through my activity, and thereby I become the expression of God's activity. And that activity requires no permission from any outside source to reach the destination, and in this case, it's you. You are the destination of this divine love that will receive its own reward, okay? There's the answer. See, you're thinking the whole time, how can I get to that level of consciousness where I know that my supply is always going to be given to me so I can just get doing the things that I really want to do in life? Well, I just told you. As soon as divine love receives its own reward through you. Now here's what I recommend. I recommend you, in human terms, think about if you had a relationship. This is part of the course from my previous video. I talked about having a relationship with wisdom, all right? If you had a relationship and you were seducing someone else all the time, all of your affection was going to this other, okay, woman, man, whatever, how happy and delighted would you be yourself if you were the partner of that person who was giving their affection to another? Would you be delighted? Well, what if you loved that person? What if you really loved that child, and yet you just knew that that behavior needed to be chastened? In other words, the pruning of the charitable contribution, the cutting off, the circumcision, the baptism in the Holy Spirit, all of these things had to happen in order for wisdom to mature through this progeny, through this child. And boundaries had to be set in place. Being a humble, wise servant, you as the parent of this child, you considered putting boundaries in place so that, well, this child could not go and destroy itself, correct? Now, if you put boundaries in place, arguably speaking, it would be in a way that the child could interpret the sensations or the data that is coming through in order to self-correct and apply the appropriate attitude or behavior without you having to reinforce it through alternate means. In other words, you don't want to punish the child for something it didn't do. For ignorance can't be to blame. The child hasn't grown in its wisdom yet. We want the child to grow in wisdom. Well, this self-governance of your household, see, everything that was contained in your house, including your children, you would have a degree of control over this, according to your own wisdom, and you would be able to self-govern and allow for the loving maturation period, if you will, versus the condescending punishment model. Because condescending and punishment implies that you would have been too stupid to have control over your own environment. Now, we know that I'm talking about God, and we know that God's not too stupid to have control over God's own creation. The substance of all that which was created, God created and called it good. So we know God called you good. Now, being that God's divine love is the only cause and principal activity underlying all human life, if you will, that which perceives itself as not the good would be chastened and be pruned off one way or the other, so that all that was remaining was the refined elemental wisdom in its most pure form, reflecting the maturity of the child becoming an heir to the palace of knowledge, wisdom. Now, I know this is a lot of word salad here, but I'm not talking to your conscious mind. I'm not talking to the carnal mind at all. Remember, the work that I'm doing is beyond what your carnal mind can comprehend. It's not your carnal mind, first of all. And second of all, the carnal mind cannot comprehend any of the ways of God. I just ask that you put a comment below when a glimpse of nirvana comes your way. When you are tactfully and bountifully endowed with a sense of peace and freedom from self-preservation, even if for a glimpse of time. Just let me know below when it hits you, whether it's now, tomorrow morning, in a few days from now. Just remember this. For the Lord your God says, "Fear not, for I am with thee." I am with thee. You know, that great secret that Solomon kept hold of and attempted to pass it along, and yet it was seemingly stifled by the impersonal carnal mind. However, it could not be impeded upon this wisdom that reaches man when man's heart is ready. So what we really have is the story of how man's heart was not ready to receive this bread of life. And that bread of life that Solomon possessed and contained the Essenes, the masters, for they knew that the I am is the one from which we all emanate and live, move, and have our beingness contained within the one. And there was no other created. And the dream of the material five human, carnal-minded senses, the ether rarefaction, the centrifugal loss of power through the divergent loss of inertia, radiating through the polarizing twin dielectric forces of good and evil, eating of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden, the Adam dream, falling asleep in carnality, and all of its emanations, witnessing its own delusions. The entire construct itself never existed. Of course, your carnal mind will never understand this. Again, I repeat, it's not your carnal mind. But if you keep holding on to it, I could only say, could you let go of your possession of these fruits of good and evil? And when would be a good time to let go? Would now be a good time? So could you let go of your possession of this good and evil for just this moment? And could you let go even more of your iron grip perception of reality based on what you call good and evil for just this moment? Seeking control whereby you are negating the divine realization that all is under divine control in your house. For you are the radiant offspring of the one principal mind, the parent, father, divine will, mother, nurturing divine love, already possessing and containing all within thyself. Now, if you were to take some of the seduction that you have toward the things of this world, for instance, everything you'd put on a list of these are the things that I take self-preservation concerning. Here's how I look after my own needs. And write a list of about 25 ways that you look after your own needs every day, obsessively and compulsively, thereby reinforcing your persona, thereby reinstituting the adoption of the carnal mind. I mean, you adopted a bastard that God calls a bastard. And if God calls it a bastard, who are you trying to bless something God is cursing? Well, what is this thing? Well, first of all of its emanations are nothing. And second of all, it doesn't belong to you or anyone else. It's nothing trying to appear as something, so someone will give it life for which it may come to life because it doesn't have life. Therefore, it cannot cause death. It cannot cause any thing to occur because it is the lawless one. Law means to govern, to control. You have to have power. There is no power, no control, and no law in any of the emanations coming from this carnally witnessed activity. I'm dethroning it for you right now, don't you worry. For you're the child of God, supremely held in love. Nothing else can come into your reality, because there is no other reality. Don't be afraid when I'm silent, wondering what I'm going to say next. I don't have to say anything. So on January 25th, I'm going to do a 4-hour Zoom training class, how to 10 to 20x your money. My own natural energy yield doesn't just imply your fiat dollars, your cryptocurrencies, your gold, your stocks, your bonds, your businesses, however you think money shows up. I'm talking about your energy yield. And it shows up in every facet of wealth in your experience because it's how much you're willing to reveal of the divine presence that is forever the all-in-all sufficiency. It's up to you. The only way to get there is meditation. It's the final integration piece. We've already covered the techniques. The structure is always the message. Every technique I've given you is to turn within and apply wisdom. They do one thing, all of them. To turn away from the goddess of this world, to stop seducing another woman in front of your Father, Mother, Spirit, God. You're beholding the seductress of Babylon. Her lips are bound to hell, and she speaks without law and without truth. She's an adulteress through and through. So you remember the two goddesses that live inside of you? There are two goddesses inside of you, the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of wealth. If you chase after the goddess of wealth, she will forever elude you. If you chase after the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of wealth will get jealous and chase you for a lifetime. It's another way of saying, seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things shall be added unto you. They're both saying the same thing. Truth is immutable, timeless. Say it however you want. Imagine if you took wisdom on a romantic vacation to Sheboygan, Wisconsin, right here, on the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. And you stop turning away from all of your self-preservation, trying to meet your own human needs through making sure that you maintain that negative side of that list that you wrote down. Maybe try a little harder. Maybe that'll get you there. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the carnal mind. Carnal mind is nothing. It has not an ounce of truth in it. You, as a child of God, know exactly what you should do. Imagine if you had a date with wisdom to come and spend days in the presence and relating to this wisdom. Would that be sufficient to cause a riptide, to cause a giant shift in your repentance process back home to the Father? To make a formality of it? To do a honeymoon destination retreat of pure meditation? No. The carnal mind can't do that. Carnal mind is too important. It's too important. Got too many things to take care of. Carnal mind thinks it takes care of things. The carnal mind thinks it can do anything of itself. See, the difference between the mind of Christ and the mind of the carnal mind is I can go on a walk like this and I can come up with one idea that God gives me, and I can perform more fruit demonstration. In other words, I can manifest more supply out of thin air by doing nothing than that carnal mind can do in years of labor. An ounce of God's favor is worth more than a lifetime of labor. Carnal mind, you are stupid. That's what I say to the carnal mind. You have no truth, you have no knowledge, you have no wealth. Thereby, everything you chase and pursue always ends up with the gnashing of teeth. Morning. But I'm not speaking to the carnal mind anymore. We're done with that. I'm talking to you, the child of fortune, of favor, of radiant, pure love, goodness made manifest as life. And all of the emanations of that divine life are forever equipping you as the child of God with more supply than you can even contain. So my only asking would be, would you like to come here and bring the bride of wisdom with you? Doesn't matter if you're a female or a male, what you think you identify with. That's all carnal-minded idiocracy. You're a spiritual being. You've never changed. You've never left heaven. So what I'm asking you is the bride of Christ. Wouldn't you like to be scheduling something symbolic of your new life, ascended out of the material dream? Wouldn't you agree that if you had created a son, a descendant, in the purpose of having this descendant come to know, love, and trust you, the reason why this whole expression of your personalized life exists, wouldn't you honor and celebrate that if you knew the purpose of your life? Of course you would, because you couldn't fail to do so, because God engineered you to do so, and you only adhere to the mind of God, and you only listen to the voice of wisdom, because you know that pursuing wisdom is what brings all good things unto you. And you see, therein is the transformation and the revelation that you seek. I put a link below in case you care to come. I totally understand if you can't make it because the carnal mind is always busy. I totally get it. Because the carnal mind isn't invited. So, I don't expect the carnal mind to show up. But I know the children of God will be there. Because it is not Matthew David that has put on this event. When that sets in, let me know. What would you do if you were at your window in a dark room, in a bad dream, and outside you knew that it was a beautiful day, but yet you were troubled with anxiety, in a sleep, and you heard a knock on that window. And that window said, "Please, take my hand, come with me. I want to show you how beautiful this place is." Step out of your dream, because you'll never return to it. Would you choose to stay asleep, fastly holding yourself to all of the concerns of what you call reality? Or would you recognize that that's nothing more than the carnal mind seducing you, with the lips speaking to you in the garden, trying to tell you what's good and evil? And when you consume of that fruit from that tree, you remain asleep, bound, tied. Of course, you know exactly what I'm talking about because you're not the carnal mind. And you reject the carnal mind because the carnal mind has nothing to offer you. Because one who has discovered themselves recognizes that the world is not worthy of them. And yet somehow they have the consciousness to supply all of their needs. Because that's the trade-off. You trade one for the other. You can't have them both in the same space at the same time. Only one can occupy this space. It's either you or God. Which one is it going to be? So that's the end of my formal transmission that I wanted to talk to you about. Now, I do have a little fun to present to you. You know, I've been talking about fun for quite some time. A year ago, I talked about Matic Polygon. I said it was something God revealed to me. Of course, I've talked about others. I've talked about recently Engine Coin. I really like Engine Coin. I'm not giving you financial advice. I don't care about your finances. I don't care about anything of this world that claims to have any supply concerns regarding your relationship to the divine, because I know that divine love is your supply. But I know how to fish. And you see, when you know how to fish, and God tells you to cast your net on the right side, I suppose it's a good idea to go ahead and make a demonstration once in a while. So I was thinking back along the lines of how humans, carnally minded personas, if you will, they're not the real child of God, they're the artificial mind, fakeness of the fictional reality of the five senses. The simulation of the Matrix, if you will. Well, they like these false start ghettos. They're addicted to their own punishment. So they like to get drunk, they like to watch porn, they like to gamble, they like to commit violence upon each other, they like to vote, they like to do all kinds of stupid activities that really produce nothing of value whatsoever. But they're addictive because they create tension. And the polarization happens in the tension between want and desire. And pursuit of that desire is where the act of sin takes place. Never heard me say this before because it's new, because God gives me these ideas in the moment. I've never made any of this stuff, thought of any of it. It's God, okay? Just know. It's flow. Now, I'd say for some of the carnally minded folks out there, well, first of all, they're not here, so I guess I'm only talking to God's children. This is not financial advice, but when my carnal mind says, Matthew, let's go buy a 12-pack of donuts. It's not my carnal mind, but it's the one that comes and tries to seduce me, like Neil Patrick Harris's character in the new Matrix movie. That's what he represents, is how the snake in the garden, or the whisperer of evil, tries to seduce you off into a hypnotic spell of the carnal mind. You're like, I'm immortal. I need to go satisfy my own needs. I need to go to work. I need to pay the bills. I need to care about the politics and all the bad things happening to me. And you're drunk. You're just gone. You're just woof. You're gone. You're seduced. You are like 24 pack into that Budweiser case. You're done. Okay? The carnal mind comes upon you in that way. Wholly separate from the dream of the material five senses is the life divine. You see, I'm separating you from that dream as you listen to me today. And when you get that glimpse and that realization, remember to comment below. You'll probably laugh when you get it, because you'll recognize it's all stupid. It's all idiocracy. The carnal mind is doing it. It's not you. Carnal mind doesn't belong to anybody. It's impersonal. It is the spell of Delilah. All right? Samson's hair is the spiritual strength of man. These are all symbolically representing things. So you take your drug money, carnal mind, your caffeine, sugar, alcohol, pretty much your caffeine, sugar, alcohol. I don't know what other drugs people do, but they do a lot harder ones. Well, first of all, you should just give it to God. You should just sow it to God and say, cleanse me and purify me, Father, for I put all my faith and trust in you. Second of all, I'll just tell you where I'm going to put my donut money. So when the carnal mind comes to me and says, Matthew, let's go get another 12-pack of donuts, because I love donuts. I really, when I get carnally minded, you see, when I fall asleep in the dream, I go after donuts and milk. Like, I go after them. I will get a 6-pack of the best donuts you can imagine from this local bakery that's got an award. It's just so incredible. The cream-filled Long Johns, and then the custard-filled, and I can do easy 6 to 12 of them with a quart of milk easily. And that, and then I have like a double cheeseburger meal with a brownie sundae a couple hours later, and then one more snack, and that usually constitutes what I would call one of these cheat days where I reload my gluttony. Okay, that's carnal mindedness. You see, carnal mindedness represents still at this point in my reflection probably about 15 to 20%. So I've reached the state of nirvana many times. I've had instant demonstrations I've supernaturally walked out of incurable conditions on several occasions because the Christ is the Redeemer. And we are after pursuing this wisdom, and the Christ does all the work. It's not me doing the work, it's the Christ. That's the truth. That sets you free. So, now on the flip side of that, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if, God shows me how to fish every now and then, like I've been doing. And the reason why this is important is because most organizations, after the truth comes, there are mystics in this world who have these states of nirvana, and they reach through the gnosis, the knowledge of the Father, they reach the pinnacle of demonstration with truth, yielding before it. Humility means to humble yourself, which means to forgive, which means to yield before a principle. And they bring about a demonstration. But then it becomes organized, and then these people live off the wake of that, because the pursuit of it never occurs. You see, a preacher can go get a job in a church, and the preacher doesn't have to fish to provide for themselves. They can just live and siphon off the nipple of the church treasury, if you will. But see, the originator of that body of knowledge had to push through the wall and pursue wisdom to demonstrate the consciousness. And so I ask you to be that person that pushes through it, demonstrates it, makes a big show of it if you have to. Do something extravagant for wisdom. Don't just half-heartedly say, I'm going to go after the pearl. Go after it and make it big and bodacious. That's what my whole ministry is. It's big and bodacious in terms of my pursuit of wisdom. I had to make a show of it in front of the whole world. Why? Because I'm showing off my woman to you. Imagine that. You don't know who my woman is. My woman is wisdom. And I'm showing it off to you. Because it's her that's beautiful. That's why I hide. That's why you don't see me. Because it's not me that you're looking for. And the reason why I do this is because I demonstrate the supply. Because wisdom takes care of it for me, because I love her. And if you understood what I just said, then there's your answer. Now, I know the wind is kicking in. I can hear it, feel it. Here's the big idea. I'm about to put some donut money in a few different areas that God has revealed to me. And I'm not going to talk about it here. I don't really want to go there. I was going to, but then I thought, why? Why should I reveal what God showed me of where to fish for those who aren't even asking? And yet, if they were asking, would they be asking me or would they be asking God? Interesting how that plays out, huh? So, the only thing I would recommend, and I don't care either way, personally, it doesn't bother me. This is my last event at Jake's Cafe. I wanted to invite you to come hike with me, to meditate with me, and to get yourself into that state where you receive that consciousness of supply. It can never be taken from you once you reveal it for yourself. If you haven't done that yet, this is your time. If you have done that yet, then you're there. And whatever I'm saying is just a formality for you. All right, enough said. It's time to go. And I'll see you soon.